That is one aspect of the IT operations, which is about technology and the resources. How about the practices and culture? I mean, these days we talk about DevOps, we talk about SRE. So, what do you think of them? Is it helping IT ops as well?
Yeah. So to rewind the clocks a little bit, when I was part of the IT operations part of it, supporting a lot of customers and applications, there is still a model called ITIL V4, IT Infrastructure Library. I did the V3 version when I was there. It focused on how to manage incidents and how to manage problems and how to respond to situations. You had situations like PIR, post incident review, that you investigate when something goes wrong. Today, Google has shared its SRE concepts to the world. It has been there for a couple of years now, and a lot of industries are trying to adopt it. It's very similar to the ITIL model. It's not drastically different, but it helps you understand how you should approach these operations. We cannot simply log on to a server and fix the problem. Here's a pro tip to be an SRE: stop logging on to the server. That's the first step that you need to do. Zero touch. Don't log on. The moment you log on and you're logging on to fix the problem, maybe I'll give you one point there. But if you're logging on a day to day basis and seeing what's going on, what's wrong with my server, you would end up logging on all the time. And then you're wasting time logging into it. The problem that we face is the scope of influence has now changed. The complexity that we face is now no longer just the infrastructure problem, it's the application problem. There's tracing that happens for each individual request. You have no idea how your front end users are using it. So that changes. So operations team, which were part of the ITIL V4 and V3, has to evolve and apply some practices on SRE. Now, how do you do that? You don't have to extract everything that is there in the Google SRE book and apply. Because number one, you're not Google. Google does different way because that scale is different. They have to serve billions of Google accounts. We probably don't have. Billion is a big number. Getting Gmail account and YouTube that you see, that's massive scale. What we could do is start with those baby steps. The baby steps is look at how you log on to the server. When something goes wrong, how do you respond to it? What is wrong with that server? Think about the job I did. I had to be on call. If something was wrong, I would get a phone. They would say that this is the problem. And I would try to guess what was the problem and try to replay, okay, this could be the issue. And I go in and try to find out, is that the issue? Trying to exclude what could be the problem. And then finally navigate, oh, okay, this is the issue. Let me fix it. Now I know how to fix it. I had to spend a lot of time to try to fix what the problem is. Now, that was the pre SRE phase. As you evolve, then ideally, you shouldn't be paged. You shouldn't get an alert. You shouldn't get a call for which the responses are robotic, which means that if I get an alert and the only thing I would do is go and restart the service, that is not intelligence. I'm not applying intelligence. I'm just being robotic and solving the problem. So, this job of doing it is something that we could improve on. And that's where we need to identify toil. Toil is something that I would want to introduce here. I want to pick up a general example. So you're running this podcast, and then the biggest value that you have is this conversation that you and I are having. That is the biggest value. And then you have some form of post process and post production. That's editing, which is also valuable. You have to add something. Then there are other channels that you would do. You would have to publish into the various platforms like Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, YouTube. And now you would convert the voice to text. You get that text, change that into Markdown, update in your site. These tasks that you do, which are repeatable, you're doing this for every time there's a podcast, which do not have value. I'm not saying that it doesn't have value. I'm saying the most valuable part is this conversation that you and I are having. The other things are important that you have to do, but you have no other choice. You got to do that, which can be automated. So that's the next step. Can that job be automated? So that job is called toil. It could be any other stuff. Any other example that I could think of is cleaning my house with a vacuum cleaner or a broom. I have to use that and clean it. Can I solve that problem? Why is that not so important? It's not so important because I could spend more time with my family. That is more valuable. I have to spend more time there. Whereas cleaning the house is important, but I have to do it. I've been doing it manually. It is important, but I should find a way to automate it. How I do this? I buy a robotic vacuum cleaner. I'm not advertising for a robotic vacuum cleaner right now, but that is an important aspect. There is a baby cradle that automatically moves when the baby cries. Gosh, when people are doing this for babies when it cries during night, how are we responding to our systems? I think the way in which we respond to issues in our system could be improved drastically. And this is where we need to identify toil, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, so toil is one concept that I read also from the SRE book. And in fact, inside the book, it's mentioned that even though you can identify toil, sometimes it's always there. So you can't just eliminate all the toil. In fact, 50-50 ratio is commonly used for any Google SRE. Toil, I like the way how you mention it. It's something that is repeatable, happened almost all the time. And you know how to fix it, how to respond to it, and potentially can be automated. I think these three attributes, I would like to say that it's a core component, because if an incident happened once and you just fix it and that's it, I think it's not considered as a toil. Is that correct understanding?
That is correct. Now, if an incident happened once and you found out that the incident can be solved by a permanent fix, then we should do the permanent fix. If the incident happens again and again, you try to find out what is going wrong here, try to investigate it, and go deeper as much as you can and try to fix the problem, fix the root cause of the problem. At any given point of time, you realize, and this is happening for a lot of organizations. As we saw the journey from the bank to where they are right now, they're the oldest consumers of software. They have a lot of legacy softwares. Any business that used computers for a long period of time, they would have legacy softwares. Those softwares would have been outdated. The vendors wouldn't even release a patch. The only solution, for example, if there is a memory leak, is to restart that service. And you're doing this every time, every week. Great opportunity to automate that problem. Great opportunity, fix that problem. Then comes the cost of expense. Now, if I need to spend about, I would say 5-10 days to just do it, you need to automate that problem, to write the script, to implement the integration, connect the dots, and make sure your solution works well in the real world. When there's an actual incident, can it do that job? If the effort is too much, you need to reconsider whether it is worth to automate that problem. But you would find a lot of use cases. The next time you step out from an individual perspective, you would see that there are toils everywhere and you could manage it. It is important to eliminate that, because if you don't eliminate toil, you won't have time to fix the greater good. You won't have time to fix problems strategically. Let's take that example. The operator was there, he's using those older software, and the only job that he does is restarting that service. But hey, let's rewind the clock. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because that software is out of date. If it's out of date, can we transform that? Can we do an upgrade? No, the vendor doesn't exist. Okay, can we move that application to somewhere else? Possible? How much effort would that be? Let me come back to you. And that capital expense, if it's affordable, you should go for that. But hey, you don't have time for that because you're too busy fixing that problem. So it is extremely important that we manage time. This is not the industry problem that we talked about, like machines will take over, and you have operations. That never happened. When I was in school, I was always taught when the industrial age came, machines would replace and people would run out of jobs. To an extent, that never happened. We always changed. We always are evolving. I'm not doing the same job that I was doing many years ago. That job does not exist. It would have been automated, and I'm focusing on something else. So this is happening. We have to identify and fix those toil as much as we can, because strategic initiatives takes precedence.
I'm also operating systems these days. I know it's like delicate to have this balance of how much expense, how much effort required to actually permanently fix this, or maybe automate that versus actually just fixing it. Because restarting something is so easy, right? And I like the thing that you mentioned here about managing time. So you have to manage your time. So don't spend a lot of time just working on toil, because otherwise you'll be hiring a lot more people, first of all, if your system grows larger. And the second thing is that you are not able to invest time in doing the strategic thing, the most valuable thing, maybe for your users, for your customers, or maybe for your business.